then we had in Europe NIS2 being rolled out, the software security kind of executive order that being rolled out as part of NIS2 and DORA. So we had a whole regulation about software, but we seem to be obsessed right now about AI. So where are we from a software and vulnerability management from your perspective?
Yeah, if you would have asked me, say 6 months ago, or if the election in the United States went a different direction, I think, we would see more similarities in terms of the two. Obviously, there's still drastic differences. The U.S. overwhelmingly, especially now with the administrative change, it seems to be so far, is kind of heading down more of a path of voluntary guidance, best practices, recommendations, things of that nature, where the EU is kind of set out to, as some called it, I think some of even within government, I'm not sure, but to be a regulatory superpower. As you said, there's NIS2, there's DORA, there's the Cyber Resilience Act, there's the EU AI Act, and I'm having a hard time keeping up with them, honestly, especially not being based there myself. But they have global implications, right, for organizations doing business around the world. And those have some real teeth in things like in terms of like software liability or product liability, ramifications for companies around security and privacy and data residency, all those kind of things, vulnerability remediation, disclosure, transparency, et cetera. So we have a pretty drastic difference between the two. And I think we're honestly going to see some interesting things play out in terms of security and privacy and regulation and things of that nature, but contrasted against maybe perhaps innovation, speed to market, economic prosperity, even national security with the intersection of technology and kind of modern digital conflict, for example. So the difference between the two is really interesting. And I think it's going to be, to be seen in terms of if any approach is better than the other. I ultimately think, we need to find that middle ground because, we often hear like the phrase, compliance isn't security. I've used it throughout my career like everyone else, but I've kind of come around to think that it is security. It's just not the elimination of risk, and nothing is the elimination of risk, to be honest with you. We all know that, right? Other than not doing business or not having a product or not having software. But compliance is the floor. It's not the ceiling. It's, it's the baseline, right? It's not, we don't want to stop there in many cases. And I think without that floor, we'd kind of be in free fall in terms of the state of security in the industry, because anyone who's worked in larger environments or organizations, if you try to go to development teams, engineering teams, leadership, and get them to do some kind of security, task or objective without kind of a requirement, like a compliance requirement to point to, it can be problematic.